I don't want to say too much because I know that my, expert is just about to just start giving you all the things you need. They're always very straight up to the point. And so, Skitter Koki Nuthuli, thank you very much for being here. She is the advocate or an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Thank you so much for being here. I am so humbled. I'm so honored. How are you feeling?
I feel so great to be here this morning. Thank you for having me, for inviting me. And I'm honored to be speaking to Kenyans today about the legal perspective of this. I call it a disaster to me, domestic violence, gender-based violence. I think after COVID-19, we need to have a conversation about domestic violence. If you look at the newspapers every other time, you go through social media pages, you find that people are killing each other in the domestic setup every single day. We may have a bigger perspective.
Yes.
We have, I know you'll bring in a psychologist.
Yes.
Some other time I say that we may also need spiritual animators.
Oh, yes?
Because it is complicated. It is complicated to understand.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll give me an opportunity to talk, to explain what domestic violence is.
Yes, I think we're just gonna start with that. Start with explaining to us what domestic violence is and what violence is, because some people just expect that violence is probably physical. But I think there's more to that, because today we're talking about emotional scars. There are people who have been abused emotionally.
Yes.
Yeah, so what is domestic violence really?
So domestic violence refers to any form of violence meted upon a person in a domestic setup. So this violence, as we'll discuss later, it may either be economic, it may be emotional, it may be physical. And a domestic setup comes from a domestic relationship. Maybe it may be a marriage currently ongoing, or a previous marriage for that matter. We may also have what we are having, I want to call it cohabitation. People living together with an intention of getting married.
Is that inclusive of boyfriend, girlfriend?
Yes, because they have an intention to get married. Or maybe they are living together in such a setup. We also have children in this domestic relationship or domestic setup who are also suffering from different kinds of violence. So domestic violence generally entails all that. Violence that is coming up from a domestic setup or a domestic relationship.
Now, I know people are watching back at home because this is a family TV show, and I know that we have parents and children and everyone else who is in this kind of situation watching. And today our focus is on, being with that person you love and trust. Like you said, it's domestic. It's supposed to be a home. It should be your safe space, So we are asking, if I get myself in a situation where now I'm being abused, because I know we don't have a lot of time, we just want to bring out solutions. A lot of people have talked about, we go out to police stations, especially in marriage, and you're told, ini mambo ya yenu, bwana na bibi hatuwezi ingilia, endeni mtengeneze nyumbani. How do you advocates, perceive this? And what really is the way out? Do you feel that this is how the justice system should look like, really?
I would like to enlighten Kenyans and people who are watching this that we have an act in place. It's called the Domestic Against Violence Act that came in place actually in the month of June in the year 2015. This is because every person since time immemorial has been having this conversation about domestic violence. And I want to thank our parliamentarians for thinking and coming up with such a law. It lays down different forms of abuse and avenues that you can use to get justice. One interesting thing that I want to tell you about this act is that it protects even men. We have had a scenario or a situation where we think that when you talk about violence, we are thinking about women, and we are thinking about children. I want to tell you that our men are abused in our houses. We've heard of men being killed and being battered. The only problem that I have with the male gender is because of maybe social stigma or something. They don't report these things.
So they
believe, how will I tell the public that I was beaten by my wife? How will I tell the public that I'm being intimidated and threatened? How will I tell my wife that, I mean the public, that my wife is denying me the right to work?
How will I stand in front of a court?
Yes.
And start, justifying and saying I was actually battered by my wife, yes.
But I want to tell the men today that a divorced son or brother and a courageous one is better than a dead one. Because at the end of the day, you will be killed by these women. Same case applies to the women.
All right.
What we have now is that this act has really been helping, but women, because women come out to report.
All right.
We have had so many organizations. We talk of FIDA, you talk of the UN, that are protecting women. But who is protecting our men?
And I like that you've asked that question. Now, I want to talk to the men and women back at home who are asking, okay, fine, you've said there is this act, the Domestic Violence Act, there is the Marriage Act. But now, as a Mwananchi, we look at a lot of advocates and we're thinking the legal process is very expensive. We'll talk about the cost, but how do I even start? Now, somebody was battered this morning. They're watching. Somebody was probably, raped last night. And they're thinking, so where do I start from? As a common Mwananchi, to actually get legal, advice and help from advocates like you.
I want to tell Kenyans that, one, you need to be courageous. Okay. You need to, it has to start from within, that I want to report and I actually want to pursue this as a legal cause. Okay. There will be the psychological one, there will be the spiritual one and all that. But it has to start from you. Okay. We have avenues like the police stations, actually. Assault and all that are criminal matters that are handled there. That is one. We also have situations where you go to court, you report to court to be granted protection orders.
Okay.
And today I want to tell you that you are not the only one who can report as the victim.
Okay.
We have people who feel like there is violence going on in this house. There is a child who is being abused. There's a woman who is being abused. There's a man who is being abused. That person can be able to report on your behalf.
People are afraid to report because they'll be called in as witnesses?
No, they're protected.
Okay.
You don't have to be called as a witness to state all that. When you look at that act that I referred to as the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act, it protects these people. Okay. You don't have to be identified. You are the one who reported. What needs to be done is an investigation, is all to be done. All right. And that's why we have police officers in place. Now, for the courts, what the courts do, they grant what we refer to as protection orders, so that the victim is protected from the violence. The court also, depending on a case-to-case basis, they may refer you to counseling. Okay. So that, because at the end of the day, we need to take care of your emotions. We may give you protection orders because you are being intimidated and threatened. But what do we do to your emotions psychologically? Mm-hmm. So the court also, in some situations, they have been empowered by this act and our constitution to refer you to counseling. Okay. The judiciary is doing so well. Mm-hmm. We have something we call the court annexed mediation. Okay. At the end of the day, you don't want to break these families. Oh. These are people united by love, and they might have even vowed before the court, before the church, that they will be separated by death. But, so before you can even let these people maybe suffer from, because even divorce has its own emotional impact on individuals. So we try to embrace the court annexed mediation to see and to understand what's the root cause.
Oh, this is the mediation process we hear about.
Mediation process. Okay. And this mediation process involves even counselors, professional counselors, who are brought in to ensure that these people are taken care of. Unless now truly it's out of order, that there is nothing much that can be done. We also have safe homes for some victims. Some children are taken to children homes. And even some men or women who are really suffering, maybe you don't have a place to go. Okay. You don't have a place to call home, because where you call home, you're seriously being battered. So we have safe homes for these individuals. Just to mention something else. Yes. That anyone can apply for this protection order.
Anyone.
Can be the victim. It can be a social welfare officer. It can be a police officer. It can be a religious leader. It can be your neighbor or your relative. Because at the end of the day, these people do not want you to die. We need you alive.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you're watching today and you're wondering, where do I get the strength, where do I get the courage, you can talk to someone close to you and tell them what you're going through. They would be able to make this first step for you. Now, there is a loophole. I read the Constitution, and I know we've had this discussion in very many capacities, but we've not seen changes. We have a victim, not really a victim, I call her a victor, who was actually raped in her marriage. But we see the matters in the Constitution or in our law that says, you know, if they do not recognize this kind of assault, this kind of abuse in marriage, what do you have to say about that? I don't know, is it true to start with?
One thing about rape, and which is very interesting, it means that this sexual abuse where truly there was no consent.
Yes.
So it may be difficult for you to prove that you did not consent to that. That's why I know many people are suffering from that, but actually proving it is the burden. How do you prove in the first place that you did not consent to that? Just remember our African, we don't depart from it, way of living. Husbands and wives have a right to conjugal rights.
Okay.
Yes, actually, someone can complain that the same is being denied. So, in my own thinking, I keep wondering, how do you prove that truly you didn't grant consent? Unless now you're able to get the help of the medical practitioners to give us a P3, which is showing that indeed there were injuries that were sustained as a result of all that. Yes.
All right, that's when. So with the law, there's a lot of proof and evidence. Actually, if that lacks, we probably lack justice.
I want to say that it's unfortunate that, not unfortunate, but the law and the criminal matters, the civil matters, is about evidence.
Okay.
Why? Because the court is impartial. The court was not there when this happened. So you who is alleging that this and this happened to me, you need to prove. Otherwise, how will we take somebody? Remember, we have a right to presume people innocent unless proven guilty. So how do you take this person to jail just on the basis of rumors? I want to call them rumors.
Okay, so it's termed rumors until there are evidence. Now, I know there are people who are asking, okay, this is what I've gone through. I've probably been raped by my dad, you know, and now I'm asking myself, who has the burden of proof? You know, is it the victim?
The victim has the burden of proof, and this is how it's done.
Okay.
If you have been raped, you have a duty to report the same to the police and to also go for medical examination. That is what I'm referring to as evidence.
Okay.
Because when we are doing these criminal matters, we call in these experts, we call in the doctors to explain maybe the circumstances of your private parts when you reported this. That's how we prove a rape. Otherwise, it would be so difficult for us to, if you go to our prisons, you will find people who are there and they will tell you truly, I did not do this because this and this happened, I am here. So all human beings are being protected. They are all entitled to rights. And one of the rights is a right to a fair hearing, which entails proper evidence beyond reasonable doubt being produced before this court for you to be jailed.
Nice.
Otherwise, you would be jailing people out of rumors and propaganda. Remember, you even have hatreds in the society.
Yes.
Someone will hate your son, and they will ensure that your son is sent to jail for what? For rumors that your son raped the other one.
We've had cases of that a lot without celebrities.
So we must rely on evidence.
All right. Now, you see properly, she's really making it very clear you need evidence. And now I want to ask you, fine, I've gathered my evidence, I'm going through this, and I'm watching and I'm thinking, can I really afford Skitter? And if I can't afford Skitter, how do I get legal advice? How do I get somebody to actually start? Is there pro bono legal representation for people who cannot afford advocates?
One thing I want to appreciate about the Law Society of Kenya, we always have a period of legal aid where we give free legal aid for 1 full week to members of the public. And it is even advertised. And it's there in every station, not only in Nairobi. You'll find them in Thika, in Embu, everywhere when we have the Legal Awareness Week. This time, people are able to get free legal advice from advocates.
Okay.
We have pro bonos that are done. I want to tell you for sure that most advocates do pro bono matters, at least 4 matters in a year.
Okay.
For me, I do 5. Advocates, they're not as I don't know what we think about them. But advocates are good people, and they are actually giving back to the society. And one way of us giving back to the society is offering pro bono services. If you go to the courts, for instance, we give pro bono services.
Okay.
You are contacted by the court sometimes because you have applied to be able to offer pro bono services to people. So what I think, I do not want to call it lack of knowledge or ignorance, for lack of a better word, is just that we Kenyans do not want to know. Because once we have that legal awareness week, we advertise all over.
Okay.
You'll find banners all over around
I've not met any of them personally.
Yeah,
I wonder where they're put out.
No, they're put actually around the court. Okay. And if you look at the court, where the courts are located, they're within the society. For instance, if I talk about the Ruiru law courts, which is next to us, the Kahawa law courts here, the Kiambu law courts, which is here, you'll find those banners actually, in informing the public that at this and this particular time, the Law Society of Kenya will be giving free legal aid for one full week to Kenyans. So this is the time that most people come in to talk about themselves, to talk about their situation. Other times, let me tell you something, you can just walk into an advocate's office and you will get pro bono services. It's just that there's a perception out here, people think that lawyers are too expensive, or they don't offer pro bono services, or all that. Yes, lawyers are expensive. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Because they give you good services. But at the end of the day, we still do pro bonos.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that we have to strike that balance. If you are in a dire situation, you really need help, please reach out to advocates and you can be able to, of course, get pro bono services. We want to close this, but really quick, I want to ask a very sensitive question now that we have an advocate here, and emotional scars are sensitive matters. We've had families who go out, years later and say, our file was closed. Our file hasn't been opened. This was thrown away. The case was compromised. Are these just speculations? Are these rumors? These things do happen. I know you will not really but what happens to victims like this in these situations? Because people are afraid. Why would I go there and I will not get justice? What brings out cases of compromised cases and files in the legal, especially in matters of victim abuse like this?
Oh, one thing I would say is that over the years, we may not be there yet, but the judiciary is doing a lot. Okay. The courts have become extremely friendly to even members of the public and every other person. You can just walk into the registry to check your file and to just get information on what is happening, especially when you don't have an advocate on record. Okay. Yes, the cases of compromise may be there, here and there, but these are things that can be handled. We have an office referred to as a public defender, or the office of the ombudsman. If you have evidence, we also have the Judicial Service Commission. If you have evidence that truly my matter is being compromised and all that, you have avenues to lodge your complaints. But I think what we have is just we rely so much on rumors. I will be having a conversation with you and telling you, I cannot go to court because my matter will be compromised. No, you have not gone there. You need to go there. You need to lodge your complaints so that your matter can be taken up. Let's not be fed with the negative comments out here without just getting our facts right. Yes, these situations are there. I do not want to run away from the reality. They are there. People may be compromised, the prosecutors, the magistrates and all that. But we still have avenues where you can lodge your complaints.
All right. Okay. Now that's very, very important. I hope you're watching today. I'll give you some of those notes that I'm picking up, including some of these bodies that are helping you and that you as a common mwananchi can actually walk into those offices and launch your complaints. Now, are there hotlines that you probably can give us? Because sometimes we Google and some of these hotlines don't work. But if you can give us some of these hotlines that people who are going through abuse can, even this morning, call right now.
One thing I want to say before I give the hotlines. Women really report these things.
Or men don't?
Men are really scared. And I have been calling upon the male gender and even our leaders, religious, political, and all that. We need to empower the boy child. The boy child is slowly losing it. And actually, you realize that even the organizations we have, like FIDA, like UN, most of them are protecting women. Because there has been that perception that domestic violence is all about assaulting women. So men have not really been taken care of that much. We have hotlines. We have we have the UN Information Desk in Kigiri. We have a FIDA. FIDA has a hotline where you can be able to report.
Yes.
We also have a one that I think came into place during COVID-19 era last year, because we've had so many cases of domestic violence last year. It's a national hotline. If you look at it, you can be able to find a national GBV hotline, something of the sort. We also have the information desks at the police station. I know sometimes you will walk into the police station and then you are told, unachapwa na bibi yako, hii ni kazi gani, and all that. But truly, it is not right, because we have an information desk at the police station to be able to protect these victims.
Yes.
And one of the roles of a police officer in our act is actually to enlighten a victim on the avenues that are there for them to be protected, including helping them lodge criminal complaints and also advising them to get protection orders. So I would also tell our police, please do not intimidate these people. Do not laugh at them and tell them they have been beaten by their wives. Let the information desk at our police stations truly be there to protect the victims.
I like that you have spoken to the police, and of course next time I want you to come and of course have a legal perspective on how and what the police should be doing as part of the executive arm of government, not the stories you've been highlighting like homicides that are caused by police. You've seen stories of boys who are clobbered to death. We'll talk about that later. But of course now I want your personal perspective. You've really brought in a nurturing aspect of you on boy children. Now I want to hear what word you have out there to victims who are watching, just away from the legal perspective. Yes. Just give your last 2 words to them and just open your heart to them. They're watching.
One thing I'll tell the victims is that I'm so sorry that this is happening. And it has been happening. Actually, domestic violence dates back to history. It's just that maybe it was not much reported at the time. Or in some cultures, I hear that it was right for a woman to be beaten. It was a sign of love. But this morning, I want to tell the victims of domestic violence, please, a divorced daughter or a divorced son is better than a dead one. Do not stay in an abusive relationship because of either your self-esteem or the society, what the society wants you to be, or fear that the people will talk about you. That doesn't matter much. My emphasis is on men and the boy child. Please do not be scared that your friends will be laughing at you because you've been beaten by a woman. You will be killed, my brother. You'll be killed, my son. Please leave. It's better to live than to die. Out here, there is life. I want to say something that people fight. Even I also fight with my sister, and I fight with my brother. So it is okay to disagree, but it is very not okay to die.
I like that.
Yes. So let's try to advocate, and also the society at large. Let's continue in supporting domestic violence victims.
Yeah.
Let's not seclude them or laugh at them or mock them. Let's embrace them. Let's and also the victims. Please seek professional counseling, therapists, from spiritual animators, from psychologists, and all that.
I like that.
Thank you very much.
It's okay to disagree, but it is not okay to die. When it is time to walk out, some of you are asking, how do I know it is the stage now? I need to look for a psychiatrist, or look for a psychologist, a counseling psychologist, or actually look for Skitter where she is. At what point do I take this step, Ankey? At what point is enough enough? You'll hear a story from one Hope, Elizabeth Hope Olang. We'll also hear from Catherine, who is a registered Kenyan psychiatrist nurse. We get to hear this process, at what stage you are at, and when to actually seek legal help. Skitter Koki, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, working with the Koki and Associates advocates based at Ruiru Town. Thank you so much for your time, for creating time. We want to have more of you advocates on set, just to have a legal perspective to these social issues. We are so glad you came.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for having me. I'm so humbled.
Karibu sana, come again.
Asante.
Tunataka personal number, we'll figure out that later. All right, I take a short break. I come back with more conversations right here. Talk to me on Facebook, KUTV Kenya. We are streaming live. Good morning.
Thank you.